This low-key reminds me of that one movie.
Before I even really get into the video, I just kind of wanted to give a big thank you to everyone who's supported me so far. I know I'm a really new channel and my editing was a little wonky in the last video, but I really appreciate kind of like the overwhelming love and support I received. I was really nervous to make that video and everyone was just so nice, and I just want to give a big I love you to everyone who enjoyed that video, and especially to everyone who subscribed. I hope I can continue to make videos that you guys enjoy in the future. So without further ado, let's get on with the actual video. So basically, after making my last video on the Emoji Movie, I was thinking, okay Camilla, everybody knows now that you hate the Emoji Movie, great. But like, to be fair, there's a lot of people who do like that movie. And I was thinking, there surely must be some sort of movie that is like objectively like worse than the Emoji Movie. So I was thinking like a lot of animated movies that I had watched. And I know I remember mentioning that I liked a lot of really weird movies, but I remember the only movie that I had ever come across that had ever made me like the same amount of uncomfortable as the Emoji Movie. And it's one that I hadn't even watched, and that's FoodFight. So this movie came out in 2012 and was directed by Lawrence Kasanoff and was eventually released by Viva Pictures. It's a long story, we'll get into it. But I remember seeing this movie in like a YouTube compilation of like the worst movies of all time and just being like, wow, that's a really ugly movie. That's a terrible movie. Oh my God. If you didn't know, it's one of the biggest box office flops of all time. It's estimated to have cost around $45 million. And on actually generous estimates, it made back $120,000. So it's just always stayed in the back of my mind because of how well, you know, it's just so terribly hideous. But like I've said, I've never actually watched this movie, and definitely I haven't properly researched it. So I decided, let's watch it and see what's actually going on here. And after I did, well, let's just say that it's a rabbit hole that I did not expect to come across. I decided to go into the movie without researching it prior, so I could really get a sense of the movie itself without having like any preconceived notions in my brain. And just like my last video, I'm going to be spoiling it, but this one, even more than the Emoji Movie, at least the Emoji Movie, like if you don't if you don't care about plots, it's a pretty movie. This one's just so hideous that like, even with, I'm gonna go into it, but it's fine if you don't want to watch this movie. It's way too long of the ugliest animation I've ever seen in my entire life, so. So the storyline here is pretty simple, if not bizarre. In a vein similar again to the Emoji Movie, the movie takes place imagining the secret world of a supermarket where each product's logo icons, also known as Ikes, live in a supermarket-themed city. The main character, Dex Dog Detective, is a cereal brand mascot with a neo-noir detective aesthetic in love with Sunshine Goodness, who's presumably a nod to the Sun-Made Raisins brand, although it's kind of just strange. She's just kind of a cat girl. Tragically, when he's trying to propose to her, his best friend Daredevil Dan, who's a chocolate Ike, he's like a little squirrel, crashes his plane and prompts her to go looking for him. After this, she goes missing, and years go by where Dex is left lamenting his lost lover, having rejected his detective career for years in despair. All of a sudden, the supermarket is invaded by this new company called Brand X, whose entire business model is to create neutral products of basically all the stock in the store. In the supermarket world, the main Ike is represented by Madame X, a sultry, femme fatale, archetypical character who tries to seduce Dex to make him swear allegiance to the brand. Naturally, though, he is skeptical, and once Ikes in town start dying or expiring, he starts piecing together the brand's involvement. Once Daredevil Dan is kidnapped, after rescuing him, it's revealed that Brand X hopes to overtake the entire store to boost their brand and mass exterminate the entire population to eliminate the competition. In the supermarket world, they start mass campaigns to take over the city, first implying they've come to save the city and slowly eroding the government and blaming random Ikes in a very not subtle Nazi allegory.
We must send all the undesirables where they belong. The expiration station. Look around. Do you see an Ike with an inferior product? Turn in the undesirables. Join Brand X for a better way of life.
Kiwi Koala did it.
I didn't do any! Jeepers! There must be some mistake! Hey, wait, where are you taking me?
From this day forward, you must prove you are desirable. Soon we will become the model of excellence, until the entire world is just like us. One store, one X.
One store, one X.
One world, one X. One store, one X.
As a result, Dex decides to go back to his detective ways and find out that Brand X was responsible for the disappearance of Sunshine, as they ordered a recall of her product years before. Eventually, he unifies the store in resistance in a food fight war, eventually defeating the Brand X army, rescuing Sunshine, and finding out that Madam X was previously a recalled product Ike for an unpopular brand of genetically modified prunes. Because of her visual ugliness, she assumed her product solely did not sell because of her looks, despite it being implied that it was also because no one is going out of their way to buy extra large prunes. And as a result, she got plastic surgery, but was left jaded, and then decided to fake an entire company relying on human robots, seducing full-size humans, and returning to the store in order to assert her superiority. At the end of the day, she's defeated, the store goes back to normal, and Dex is finally able to propose and reunite with Sunshine. Okay, I'm gonna start with the elephant in the room, which is the Nazi-centered plot. Now, I will give the movie some credit for its attempt at an anti-fascist message. I mean, it's more than I can say about the Emoji Movie, but it's executed so poorly that I cannot, in good faith, consider this anything more than a detractor. The Brand X characters are very overt visual references. They go as far as marching and saluting in Nazi-like ways. This movie, mind you, is rated PG, so if, say, a 5-year-old were to watch this, they definitely wouldn't grasp the severity of, the implications of what they're watching. And I feel like having essentially literal Nazis in a goofy children's movie just kind of feels inappropriate. I mean, the Holocaust is famously known as one of the biggest genocides of all time, and it just feels inappropriate to have it in a kid's movie and potentially even be a kid's first exposure to that sort of topic in such a stupid, as I'll discuss later, crass movie. And jumping off of that, this connects to another issue, which is the weirdly overt sexualization plaguing the whole movie. Madam X at some point is shown in a red lace bodysuit over what is essentially a sexy Nazi outfit. I really wish I was joking. And there's this other side Brand X character that I don't know how detailed I can even describe him for YouTube's sake, which is saying, again, this is saying a lot considering it's supposed to be a kid's movie. He's overtly masochistic in that way. Every single time he's on camera, he's kind of muttering some vaguely masochistic comment, I don't know, it's really freaky.
Or I could just kill you. That would be lots of fun. More fun than a spanking.
Wait!
All violators will be punished. I do so hope they're violators. I love a good violation. Love anything to do with violation. Well, this isn't very much fun, is it? I think I just wet myself. It feels rather nice.
And Madam X herself is also weirdly suggestive with her insults.
Oh, but being filthy can be loads of fun. Don't you think so, Dex? On your knees, dog.
Like, I don't even have to explain why this isn't appropriate for a movie that's rated PG, but combined with the Nazi imagery, the whole concept just really, the execution is just really, really bad and really in poor taste. But, if you thought the innuendo ended there, no. The entire movie is like that, actually. I knew it was gonna be bad when literally not even 15 minutes into the movie, Daredevil Dan essentially, like, just harasses a random girl.
Oh, mamacita! Yo, sweet cakes! Oh, nice packaging! How about some chocolate frosting?
Get a shelf light.
I like to butter your muffin. Check this out! Get the day!
Going back to Madam X, she's animated constantly lifting her legs. Like, it's like always like a really weird angle. Like, it seems like she's gonna flash you at some point. But also, when she's wearing like dresses that are obviously supposed to be flowy, they're so tight that you can see every single detail of her entire behind every single time she moves. And at one point she's even wearing a sexy schoolgirl uniform. Just, you know, for fun, which, awesome. That's so what I wanted in this kid's movie. When there's adult jokes in an animated movie, it's funny, it's something for the parents, it's something for the adults that are gonna be watching, it's funny. But here, it's like all the time, to the point where it's just making me like super uncomfortable. Some notable examples include...
Let's try. I want to scrub your bubbles, Dex.
I'm too young to be discontinued. I never even got a chance to play lick the icing with sweet cakes.
Not so fast, Mr. Detective. Wait. Perhaps you desire a companion for those lonely bachelor nights.
Tell me something. Are those melons real?
Dex, stop. Any new ladies on your plate? Is there a new squeeze at the juice bar? Newsflash, I'm available. I always knew you were damaged goods.
I'm not the one who's gonna be puppy whipped. You cold farted itch.
Okay. Besides the obvious uncomfortable ideas that come to mind when hearing sexual comments from characters that are essentially animals towards human characters, a lot of these comments are just plain sexist. Dex at some point, like, one of his comments is just slut-shaming Madam X, which is like, okay.
Sorry, I'm not buying this damsel in distress routine. You've been through the wash plenty. I can see it in your eyes. Priscilla had the worst sales in store history.
Okay, I guess I'll be the bad guy once again and say what everyone's thinking. She's also hideous. No, I mean, come on, she's very unattractive. Because she's a prune. What do we expect from her? Why are we shy about these things? Be what you are, that's what I say. In her case, it's horrible.
And here.
And not great how much fat phobia and looks shaming there is, especially towards women. Other than the fact that there's so much sexism in it, a huge reason why the anti-Nazi sentiment doesn't work is because of the really insane racial caricatures. Daredevil Dan is voiced by Wayne Brady, who's notably a black man. And as I'll discuss later, apparently even he was kind of uncomfortable with the presentation he had to give of his character. Essentially, I've already described that he's a chocolate Ike. He's literally supposed to be like a chocolate. But in the story, that's also kind of like implied to be like a race thing, that he's like black. And there's just constant allusions to him being chocolate in a way that is really weird. like, a lot of characters are just, like, essentially racially fetishizing him. In the first scene where Madam X is trying to seduce someone, she seduces him and mentions that
chicks dig chocolate.
And there's also a whole, like, I don't even know how to describe him. He's like this weird Italian bat, and he's like, oh, you're chocolate. And he's just, like, essentially, like, sexually harassing him the whole time. It's really strange. Like,
are you chocolate? Are you made of chocolate? Really? That is so sweet. Hi. Oh! Vlad Chokul, chocolate vampire, used to have cards. Do you work out? I use the Thigh Master. What do you think I am? And with you on my back yet? Not that I mind that.
okay, like, on the plus side, gay rep. But on the negative side, what? What the heck? I don't even know who made, well, I do know who made this up. We're gonna get into it, trust. I know I've been saying that this entire video, but there's an explanation to all of the craziness of this movie. We also have Lola Fruitola, which is just kind of like a vague Latina, and who can forget about King Tofu, who lives in a pagoda, has a really strong Chinese accent, and is played by this guy. After watching the movie, I watched Rotten Behind the Food Fight, which is a documentary that is actually here on YouTube that kind of describes the whole behind the scenes process. I'm gonna link it down below, and I really recommend watching it, especially if you've watched the actual movie, because you really do come out of it just basically asking why. Like, what could have possibly led to this nightmare fuel, bizarre children's movie? Back when I was young, I heard that the movie had its assets stolen, and that's why the animation looks so bad. This is the narrative that was largely put out by the aforementioned director, Lawrence Kasanoff. But watching this movie makes it pretty clear that that wasn't the case. Essentially, Kasanoff just kind of was a crazy control freak and just a really strange person that clearly didn't understand how animated movies are supposed to be made. He would tell animators to he would make it more awesome and change the entire structure of the film altogether. At the beginning, the film was supposed to be a classic animated movie. And then later, it got changed to a motion capture type of movie, which, first of all, motion capture movies at that time weren't that technologically advanced yet, but also by changing the whole structure of the movie, just kind of made everything really discombobulated. I mean, the film started production in 2003. And it's really sad because when you see the demo reel that Kasanoff would show most of the investors, it had such a classic cartoon style, it had cute visual gags, it had animation teams led by people who had worked on Pixar and Disney. But because of Kasanoff's just like weird way of directing, he ended up making a movie that looks janky and freakish. And there's literally scenes that genuinely feel like they're part of like a horror like online series. Like, it's so scary. It's also evident that the like unnecessary perversion was something that Kasanoff really instilled. The documentary goes over how his company originally made like more like adult like animated shorts, and the movie was apparently originally intended to be to a PG-13 audience, which honestly they should have stayed in that direction. They changed it to a kids movie because it would have been more marketable. That's why there's also animal characters. And honestly, after learning that one of the animators did that because they were changing it to kids characters, I think that was a good idea. I just wish they had listened to him more and not gone with what Kasanoff did, which was basically just make an adults comedy movie and then market it towards kids. Like, if you see the kids who the demographic that originally reviewed the movie, it's children. It's really young children. But he apparently was hilariously obsessed with Madam X, a character that, again, he like essentially created. He mostly wrote the script. He apparently was in possession of a topless render of her that he would look at in his spare time. So, I mean, it's really clear that his style of work just isn't family friendly. And it's really such a shame that he was so adamant on keeping it his way instead of what the project needed. And because of the long time it took, that's why the movie feels so dated. Not just in the way it visually looks, like it really does not look like it came out in 2012, but also the comedy is just like brash. It's not very up with the times, and it just aged horribly. It feels really rushed. It was a movie that was supposed to get a theatrical release and then got straight to DVD because it took so long. It got taken from Kasanoff's possession. And it's just really sad to see what happened to what could have been a good movie. So in this case, we have another animated movie that's pretty objectively terrible, but for like a completely different reason than the Emoji Movie. The movie was packed with so much going for it. It had investment, it had state-of-the-art IBM technology, and it had professionals in the animation field. Even when it came to motion capture, the cast that would act out the more like outlandish scenes, they had like actual like gymnasts and contortionists. It's like crazy that this movie came out and looks the way it does. In fact, it even has recognizable IPs. Some of the IPs from the grocery store brands did like leave the project after a while, but you still see a lot. You see that one Charlie the little tuna whale thing. I think Mr. Clean is still in there, but even with all this, it failed because Kasanoff doesn't understand the animation process. And again, it comes back to the same idea that I had in the first movie, that the animation process is something that is way more difficult than anyone seems to realize or care about. In this case, it caused the movie to be terrible. They didn't have enough storyboarding, they didn't have enough consensus as a group, and he wouldn't let his creative professionals do what they did best. And it shows how that creates a bad project. And also, not to be strangely philosophical about a movie that clearly is supposed to be more lighthearted and silly, but one thing that really bothered me actually when I was watching this movie was how little it cared about the anti-fascist message that it was spreading. I think that that was honestly one of the most redeemable qualities about this movie for me. I feel like that message is always an important one to share. I don't think it's a bad thing to share political messaging in children's movies. I mean, if you think about how much think about YA dystopian films, that's anti-fascist. If you think about like Monster High, WALL-E, Zootopia, even though I think it's flawed with the way they depicted their predators, there's anti-racism, anti-discrimination, and also classism, and like rise of fascist like ideas that are implemented in the villains of those stories. And that's important because the kids who watch those grow up, and if they see those same things, they can realize that there's a danger to that. But the fact is that this movie didn't actually take the time to want to educate its kids on that, obviously. It was so ridiculous, and it just leaves you really uncomfortable. And not in the sense that you're actually learning from it. And I feel like its message is actually so important in today's day and age when you think of Donald Trump's presidency with ICE raids where people are being stolen off the streets and families are being separated, and the constant bombings of Palestine and the genocides there, and what's happening in Sudan, really everywhere. There's just so many political problems, and by neglecting such as big of a problem as what is fascism and making your anti-fascist story so ridiculous, it makes me so mad because I know that creatives will take the time to develop a story that is palatable for kids, that does actually teach them important lessons that they need to know. And that's another reason why I wish this movie was actually the movie that it could have been, because this could have actually been not only like a charming kids movie, but a movie that actually educated its viewers on what's a really adult problem in a very palatable way, which children's movies and IPs have been doing for decades now. Thank you so much finally, you know, for watching this video. I really appreciate all of you that stuck around, even though sometimes it might sound silly that I'm talking so seriously about these silly kids movies, but I really do want to expand the media that I like cover on this channel, and honestly I hope to be just more active on this channel in general, and I really appreciate everyone that supported me thus far. Have a great day and thank you so much.